smile more.
Yeah.
Smiling is good. It makes other people want to smile back at you.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Like a smile chain.
But hey, no, actually, on topic here, because we're talking about mistakes.
Yes.
Smiling is not a mistake.
Not smiling is a mistake, but go on.
Yes. Okay. Just the other day, I was brushing my teeth in the bathroom, and you came in and you were saying, like, Christine, I think we're doing something wrong with the kids. And I was like, okay, what would that be? Because there are a lot of things to choose from. But you said, like, I think we're both pretty much no-nonsense type of people. And, I mean, you're right. We don't really
I think that's
that.
accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, but we need to not kind of shut our kids down, but more like be open to hearing them talk about why they're doing what they're doing instead of just like, this is wrong, do it this way. Because we were hearing it in them the way we would talk to them, like, no, stop this. And
So
we'd
they'd
hear
be talking to each other
Uh-huh.
and sometimes to us in that kind of a way. That's not something that we wanted our kids to kind of grow up with thinking was okay.
No.
And at the same time, I think we're depriving them of the opportunity of dealing with whatever emotions or situations that, resulted in them being like,
That was like an eye-opener. I was like, yeah, you know what? I completely agree. Hadn't thought about it that way. I've not liked the way they talk to each other, but this is probably why. So.
And this is what we're going to talk about. Parenting mistakes that we've made without necessarily having a good solution for or a good alternative to those mistakes. We're just going to kind of go through some of the areas where we feel like, hey, we really haven't done as great at this as we would have hoped to. And hopefully, while watching this, you'll realize, well, even though we put out a lot of content, we're definitely not perfect. We want to open up for a discussion of how we can all be better parents and how we can all foster a better, more loving and caring home environment. And we hope you'll join us in that pursuit.
I also want to say at some point soon that saying we're making mistakes is also something that's really good. It's like analyzing what you do, think about what you do, and admit that you make mistakes. And I think that's going to teach your kids a whole lot as well. Like owning up to you making mistakes. That it's okay. We all make mistakes. Parents make mistakes too.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because there's so much of the opposite end of the spectrum that you can easily access on YouTube or on Facebook or wherever. All the great examples of how to do things very precisely, all the people that seem to have it all together, how they do things, and it might make people feel inferior.
Exactly.
And I know I've watched videos on YouTube where I'm like, well, that's really cool, but
And we don't want people to feel after watching our videos.
we hope people feel more like,
We hope you're on board with this. Since we all make mistakes as parents, then we would love for you to add in the comments what mistakes that you make as a parent. Or even better yet, what mistakes you've made and learned from so that we can learn from them as well.
Yeah.
So the first one we already kind of mentioned.
Yeah, why don't we just start with that? The way that it shows up more concretely in our kids and their interaction with each other is like they'll say, for example, why'd you do that? Not as a question to like try to dissect the situation and in a very like constructive, positive atmosphere, try to pick apart what happened and see how we could do it better next time, how what we can learn from it.
It's more of an accusation, like, why did you do that?
Yeah, there's not a question
No.
in there at all, actually. And I think we kind of do the same thing, because we do ask that question, we do ask our kids that question, and in a lot of situations, maybe that's a good thing. In a lot of other situations, we definitely just use it as like an event. Like something bad happened, and you're like, "Argh!" That's not something that we want to see our kids replicate for much longer. So that's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
I don't know if we found a really good solution, because it's not, I mean, this is one example of something that they say that, that just too closely mirrors exactly what we've done in our
so close
interaction
to
with
home,
them.
yeah. So, I mean, what we want to do when we sat down and talked about it is like have them answer back like what they were thinking, what they were feeling, and then like have a conversation about that.
One other thing that I feel like has worked and maybe addresses some of this issue is like when there's frustration, rather than kind of jumping on the kids and telling them exactly what they shouldn't do and how they should act and blah blah blah, we try to display the type of emotions that they can emulate and then point out, hey, can you like replicate this? Get down on their level. Once you can talk to me like I'm talking to you, then I think we can have a conversation. It's just a much better way to start like diving into, okay, what's happened? How do we resolve the issue at hand here?
I've done that quite a few times, and now it's Amelia again. She's like gotten to the point where she's like, I know, when you talk to me, I talk to you. And she like repeats it back this way. But actually today, that's why I was how you said that. I said half the sentence and she like, and then she stopped herself and then she took a deep breath and she said what she wanted to calmly. And I was like, yay, this is working. So I mean, I think
I
it will
didn't know
work.
that, by the way.
No,
I didn't know that.
It just
So,
happened today. You were at work.
how do y'all deal with your kids when they're either fighting each other or when they're just super exasperated and angry at the universe? Like, what's your default approach? Please let us know. What's the next one? What are we talking about? Parenting
What?
mistakes.
Parenting mistakes, yeah.
Our next parenting
Yeah,
mistake.
the ones that we've made.
The ones that are very personal to us. The cream of the crop.
Is not thinking our kids being capable enough to do things or not giving them enough responsibilities. This is a really big default, especially with like your first kid. Our poor son, Marcus, like he was the last kid in his class to be allowed to walk home from school by himself. Because I was just like, he's too little. We live in a very safe area and there's not a lot of traffic. So I know I need to let go a little bit and give more responsibility because they are super capable.
It's funny because we know this applies it like with adults. Like you give them the responsibility and they kind of rise up to the occasion. And I think there's not as much of a difference with kids. Oftentimes it takes a little bit more molding and instruction, but they can do so much.
So is that, I don't know.
Isn't it also just about like exposure and like, you know, letting them out and letting them have experiences? I just remember as a kid, like playing in the lava fields of Iceland. You like if you look at any of those hardened lava formations, like those things are jagged and you can really injure yourself. And still, like we played around in there as kids all the time. And yes, we got plenty of scrapes and, you know, a few stitches, but we had fun and we were out and about by ourselves. And I think sometimes we just kind of shelter our kids a little bit too much.
I also remember you talking about how you lit a fire in one of those lava pits and got caught.
Yeah, I may have done that. The logical thinking wasn't developed to the point to realize that if this is my parents' house, this is the lava field, there's a little like grove that I can kind of hide in and then light a fire. The smoke might actually rise and be visible from my parents' living room.
Which is
Which
great.
it was.
Because kids, if you give them like freedom, they're not smart enough to actually not get caught all the time. So there you go. No, but like another point with this whole like letting them go a little bit is Lucas, our youngest. No, second youngest. We have a new baby. So,
At some point, we're gonna get used to that.
he's only 2 weeks, so it's okay. But Lucas, he's almost 2 now. He sleeps in a bunk bed, his sister on top, and he just learned to climb up, but he didn't learn to climb down right away. And I was just like so freaking out, like scared that he'd fall down. And I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? Like, can we like block it off somehow? No, teach him how to climb down. And he learned like a couple of days later. And now I'm not as worried about him falling down because he's actually gotten really good at climbing down. Every time he gets down, he like looks at me and he starts clapping. He's like, right, Mom? I'm good, right? Like, yeah, you're great. Now we just have to teach him to climb down from the windowsill.
Yeah, next
Which
up.
is his next great thing that he tried doing.
The next parenting mistake that we've made is basically measuring our kids by our own measuring stick. I think I do this a lot more than you do.
Well, I think I do it as well. I think I kind of expect them to be more like me. Like, oh, I like this, so you like this too, right? Or I was really good at math, so I'm kind of expecting all my kids to be good at math. But I don't know if they are. Like, we'll see.
Taking the kids out to the football pitch and, you know, you're just practicing like kicking the ball around the soccer
Soccer ball.
but kicking the ball around, you know, I'd be teaching him and her how to like, you know, direct the ball, use the inside of your foot, and then to get power behind it, you want to put your like laces behind the shot, and you know, all of this stuff that I'm trying to like get them to just learn. And I've realized it's just not a good way to both measure them and give them feedback based on, and it's not a good way for them to kind of like learn to develop the love of the stuff that I enjoy. And maybe that's also just an unrealistic expectation.
Or having a better relationship with you as a person as well. Like, I know this means a lot to like my mom, so like every time I do it, she's criticizing me or something, then like they're not gonna want to do it and they're not gonna want to talk to you about it.
And to be honest, I still struggle with that. Like, I think they'll just end up resenting the whole thing. And like, whenever, you know, Dad talks about football, it's like, oh, come on.
Like, I kind of have the
baking.
same with baking. I mean, I always loved baking, and I love baking with my mom, and like, that's something I kind of like really was excited about with my kids. Like, we're supposed to be baking and putting things in and laughing and stuff, and they just want to like keep putting their finger in the bowl. Like, that's basically what they want to do whenever we bake. So that wasn't what I wanted. I wanted them to actually bake with me and learn to love to bake, and you know, maybe they'll get there. And I'm being more aware of it now and letting them taste from the bowl and have fun with that because they love that.
I think it's interesting since we just like created the outline for this video, how it's a lot more at the top of my mind how we approach these situations. And our honest approach to this video again wasn't to give any solutions as such.
No, but we just did.
But I've since been to the football pitch with the kids a couple of times and just like made the effort in my mind to just prepare myself. Like, I'm gonna be frustrated, but let's just go and like have fun. And maybe it was difficult like the first 5 minutes, and then after a while when we're just running around and being silly and having fun, like, you know, they just enjoy it so much more. So that's made me think more about like the other areas where I'm trying to use my own measuring stick, all the way down to like them pouring up water at the dinner table, and you know, they'll be like, "Oh," and then not paying attention, and then the water's flowing everywhere. To an adult, that's a pretty stupid thing to do. But for a kid who's like in awe of everything in the universe, like maybe it's just a lot easier to get distracted.
It's funny how like you talked about like sports and I talked about baking, because those are both things that we both enjoy very much. What are some of the things that are really important to you that you might have a little bit too high of expectations for your kids with? The next parent mistake that we've made is to not be genuinely interested in the amazing topics that our kids want to talk about all the time. So like, it's interesting, before you talk about sports, I know baking, those are things that we're really interested in. So those are easy to talk to our kids about. Like, when my kids come and want to watch a baking show with me, I'm like, okay, let's watch a baking show, you know? But when they come and want to talk about Pokemon and want to tell me what this Pokemon evolves into,
or stuff that the kids are talking about at school, like all sorts of funny little games and concepts,
or
I'm just
TikTok
like,
videos they've
wow.
seen, or I don't even know. Like, it's hard to keep seeming excited when you've heard the same things over and over and over and over again. But I think that's a mistake. It really is, because this is what's so important to them. This is their whole world. So of course they're going to talk about it again and again and again.
I don't think we necessarily have to or have time to like do that every single time they bring up one of those topics. But I think it's a mistake not to, at least on occasion, just take a moment and be genuinely interested in whatever they're talking about and ask questions and just like figure out what is actually making them excited. I can't really say that I've done this with my kids other than in the areas where I'm like at least marginally interested. But I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try that, you know, the next time that the kids come to me with something that normally I'd be like, oh, that's sweet, you know, oh, did you really? And you know, all the like the standard answers.
Like,
yeah.
Wow.
But just take a moment, take 5 minutes and try to learn something just for myself. And the reason that I think that this is a mistake, and kind of why we added this to our list, is because I know that it works. And the reason I know that it works is because of you and because of my mom.
Yeah.
And that is you pointing out to me how interested my mom is in like whenever there's a game on. Like, she's not interested in football at all. But somehow she knows, and she'll like, you know, just drop little comments about the game or like ask about the score, and you know, we'll just have like a really quick conversation. And I've honestly, until you pointed it out, I've never put two and two together.
Really?
But it just makes me appreciate my mom so much, like now that you've pointed it out, but it makes me enjoy those conversations so more. I feel like, you know, she sees me for who I am with my interests, and you know, maybe we should afford our kids the same privilege.
I actually talked to your mom about it a few years ago. We
Oh,
had a
did you?
conversation about it. And then like, I was just talking to her about it, and she said, yes, I don't care about football at all. But I know it's super important to my boys, and therefore I've learned a little bit so I can talk to them about it, because I want them to know that they're important to me and their interests are important to me. And I just think she does it really well. So
She does.
I thought you knew.
She does it super well, and
apparently you
apparently, you know, a lot better than I you know, realized or gave her credit for.
Yeah.
I never thought much of it, but Mom, don't stop it. I enjoy it.
It's true. You didn't know I actually had a conversation with her about it?
No,
I don't think I
no.
told you. till right now.
Yeah. Grapes.
Yeah. Oh, grapes. Thank you. The last parenting mistake, our fifth parenting mistake that we have made too often is to not...
Probably not the last parenting mistake.
No, okay. The last one we're going to mention.
Yes. Carry on.
Thank you. Is to not work with our kids' individual personalities when we're trying to help them improve, but just trying the one-size-fits-all solution. And that just never works, because so often in our videos, we talk about, like, their cleaning personalities or like their bedtime personalities, like, and working with those personalities to help them with that. But we've never really just taken that one step further and just applied it overall when we're working with them.
And it's funny because we often observe just how different they are. I mean, with our 4 kids right now, even our youngest, who's like 12 days old, you know, we're already noticing little things that are just different with her at this age and her siblings at around the same age, and I'm sure that'll just be accentuated once she gets a little bit older. But with the rest of them, they all have very distinct personalities. So there are just a lot of different angles that we can kind of like approach our kids through whenever we're interacting with them and either helping them to learn something, helping them to achieve something or to resolve a conflict or whatever.
I mean, we've already noticed, and earlier this summer we were doing a lot of yard work, and we noticed that Emilia, she would do great at yard work because we were all out there together, we were being like having fun, it was cozy, we were together all of us, and then she just gets stuff done. Whereas usually that's her brother, like Marcus, he would get stuff done, like have a task and get done with it. But yard work, he just does not like it at all. And I can't even count how many times I've said, like, Marcos, when you complain, it takes longer and it gets us all like in a bad mood. Just please stop complaining. And for some reason, I keep saying the same things over and over again. It's not working. Like, me saying that sentence does not work on him, but I just keep saying it. With yard work, we should give him some intellectual challenge. Like, count how many like things like weeds he pulls or the square root of something, or I don't know.
Square root.
I know.
That was a good one. We do have a good example of this working with Emilia and her lunches.
Yes.
You know, she's a picky eater, and that manifests itself both at dinner and also with her, you know, maybe bringing back half of the food in her lunchbox. She's quite adventurous, she's creative, she's not the quickest to like necessarily pick up on like the chores that we ask her to do. And we realize that, you know, the cozy time that we can offer her in like getting together with us while we make lunches for the kids for the following day, being able to pick, you know, at least to some extent what goes in her lunchbox, and at the same time just enjoy quality time with her parents, like that has just solved a lot of problems for us, all at the same time. And I think it's a good example of something that we could probably do to a much greater extent in other situations.
In so many different areas.
Does this sound familiar? I mean, like, what are some of your kids' personalities? What are some of the things that you can maybe accentuate or focus on more in your interaction with your kids?
Yeah, please leave us a comment and let us know.
Yeah, we really appreciate your comments, and there's such a wealth of experience and knowledge and, you know, just a wide variety of backgrounds that you bring to this community, whether you grew up having 10 siblings or, you know, adopted 5 girls all at the same time. I mean, we love to hear your experiences and your take on the topics that we're discussing and your ideas for topics we should discuss in the future. If you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up. We also appreciate those. And we think you might really enjoy a video that we just released on the topic of the things that we wish we'd known before becoming parents. And you can check that one out over here. And then we'll see you next week.